On Target Institute presents a teaching from the Men on Target small group curriculum. Now with today's session, On Target founder Vince D'Acchioli.
Hello men, how you doing? Welcome to our next session. I just want to remind you to go to otm.co and download the handouts for all of these sessions. Very important that you do that. Here's a reminder. Last session, we talked about our attitude and our actions. And if you remember, when we got toward the end of that session, we talked about the importance of stepping out of our comfort zone. And I used the illustration of the little boy with the loaves and fishes. You remember that? I told the story of how that went back then. Of course, we all know how it went, but how might that have gone had it happened today? And we talked about the fact that that little boy obviously didn't think he had what it takes, but Jesus didn't care what that little boy thought he had. Jesus was saying, little boy, I know you don't think you have what it takes, but you need to trust me, and you need to step out with what you do have and trust me to multiply. How often do we not do that because we really don't trust the Lord at that level? But that little boy ended up trusting God, and he stepped out, and what did Jesus do? He multiplied those loaves and fishes. And the bottom line of that is that God is not looking, listen, he's not looking for your ability, men, because I got news for you. None of us are able. He's looking for your obedience. He's looking for you to stay close to him, step out of your comfort zone, and trust him to do the multiplication. But as I said in the last session, make sure that you've got the right relationship with Jesus before you do that, because there's a fine line between trusting God and trusting your own flesh. So, in this session, we're going to be talking about what is my motive. Guys, this is a very personal session for me, and let me tell you why. I actually inserted this session into this curriculum just recently with the group of local men that I deal with every week. And I did it because of an experience I had in prayer with God. Let me share it with you. I made a commitment to my men some time back that I was going to start getting up every morning from now on at 5 o'clock, and I'm spending from 5 to 8 o'clock, 3 hours every day, reading the Word, praying and praising God. Guys, I never thought I'd ever do something like this, but it is changing my life, literally. It is amazing how much closer I feel and how much more of God's presence I feel in my life. Years ago, God did share with me, Vince, if you want to understand more of my perspective, you're going to have to first experience a greater awareness of my presence. And I thought, wow, what a profound thing for God to say to me. So it was in the midst of one of those prayer times, and I asked God this question. I said, God, am I becoming the man you intended? And I don't know how you men hear God, but for me, I know I'm hearing God when he shares something back with me that my mind would have never thought of. And that's exactly what happened to me on that occasion. The answer to that question was no. And I thought, whoa, Lord, please help me understand what you're saying to me. I'm not becoming the man you intended. And I got this sense that the Lord wasn't displeased with me necessarily. He was proud that I had made some progress, but he was saying to me, Vince, there are still some things in your life that you need to get control of, and you're not there yet. And he drew my attention to a book I read many, many years ago, written by a man named Larry Crabb. The title is The Marriage Builder. And by the way, I still believe it's probably one of the best books on marriage that you'll ever find. I remember reading that book, and I remember one thing stuck out in that book. Larry Crabb says this. He says, in all human interaction, you are doing one of two things and one of two things only. You are either ministering or you are manipulating. Ministering or manipulating. He uses the example of a guy walking up to his wife after dinner and slipping his arm around her waist, and saying, honey, you look beautiful tonight. And Larry would say, that man is either ministering to his wife with no other motive in mind, or, and then when I say or, usually a group of men will start laughing because they know what the or is. They're that guy's trying to set her up for a romantic evening, later. And so in Proverbs 16:2, it says this, all a man's ways seem innocent to him, but the motives are weighed by the Lord. What is the motive? Well, what happened is after that experience, I went to my calendar and I looked back over the last 2 weeks. And over the last 2 weeks, I looked at every meeting that was on my calendar, and I asked myself this question. At that time, at that meeting, when I sent that email out, wrote that letter, made that phone call, If I were to go back and ask myself the question, what was my motive? I was embarrassed because it looked like about 80% of the time or more, my motive was self-serving. My motive was manipulation, not ministry. And let me caution you guys at this point. I'm not saying that there aren't some times where the manipulation part, it can even be for good causes. I'm not saying that that's necessarily always wrong. What I'm saying is I didn't often have the other person in mind and what I could do to really help them or minister to them. It was more self-serving. So what I did, from that point forward, I started looking at my meetings that I was going to have, and I began deliberately laying down my agenda in an attempt to just look the other person in the eye and just think about how to minister to them. And guys, I can't tell you how many times I've done this. And what happens is eventually the conversation comes around, and you don't think the Lord knows what we need? He knows what we need. He'll take care of us as long as our heart is right and our approach to people is more ministry than manipulation. I remember years ago, I really wanted a Harley Davidson motorcycle. And by the way, for those of you who ride motorcycles, if it's not a Harley, it's technically not a motorcycle. You just need to know that. I mean, anyway, so I wanted this Harley Davidson motorcycle, and I had talked my wife into it for 2 years. For 2 years, I kept convincing my wife. I kept naming all the Christian leaders, these famous people like Graham's son rides a motorcycle. Pat Morley was riding a motorcycle back then. I think Chuck Swindoll rode a motorcycle. Honey, all these guys have motorcycles. I need a motorcycle. And she agreed. But she said, if we ever have the money, you can do that. Well, I came into some money years after that, and I said, can I go buy my motorcycle now? And she says, well, grudgingly, she said, okay. But I manipulated her for about 1.5 to 2 years to let me buy this Harley Davidson motorcycle. I had it all picked out, guys. I had it all scoped out. It was on the showroom floor. I had all the nuts and bolts. I knew exactly what I wanted it to look like, and I had the place in the garage picked out, and I was so excited. And the day came for us to go get it, okay? We went down. My daughters were very upset at me, by the way. They did not want me to have a motorcycle. But my wife, she said, okay. Okay. After I manipulated her for 2 years, she said, okay, but I didn't know this. We went down to pick it up. Got there. The guy filled out the paperwork, and he said, well, we're going to have to clean the bike up and get it ready for you. It has to go through some prep, so it's not going to be ready for a couple hours. I said, oh, man. He says, well, you come back in a couple hours. I'll have it ready for you. So we left. And guys, in the 2 hours that we were gone doing errands, my wife, on the way back to the dealer, fell apart in the car. She started weeping uncontrollably. And I said, Cindy, what's wrong? And she shared with me from her heart that she was scared. She did not want me to have that motorcycle. I get emotional even now when I'm telling the story. And I'm sitting there in the car as a man. I pulled off the side of the road. I had to make a decision, guys. What am I going to do at this point? Am I going to minister to my wife, or am I going to continue to manipulate her? Because I could have gone and picked it up and taken it home and plowed through. But I made a decision, and I'm so glad I did. I said, honey, if that's the way you feel, we're not going to get the motorcycle. And I went back, canceled the paperwork, went home, went down to my basement, and I must have cried for 2 hours because my heart was broken. I wanted it. But guys, it was the right thing to do. I did not realize how much I had been manipulating her into letting me do this. So what I did after that experience with the Lord is I went out and I had some bracelets made. And if you guys are interested in these bracelets and you want to request one, go to otm.co, and I think we're going to have them there on our website. But I wear this bracelet now. I don't know if you can see this, but on the screen it'll show you what it looks like. It says WIMM, and it's from Proverbs 16:2, which we read a moment ago. And it says, what is my motive on the other side? I wear this, guys, every single day of my life. It never comes off my wrist. I bathe with it. I take it everywhere I go, and I can't tell you how many times throughout the day I'll put my hand on this as a reminder that what I'm about to do or say, why am I about to do or say this? What is my motive? Guys, I want to tell you something. If we really asked ourselves this question more often, not only we would get in a lot less trouble, but we'd be a lot better person for displaying Jesus like we've been talking about in these last sessions. We'd be a lot closer to being Jesus than typically the way we navigate life. Now, what is the life implication for all of this? If I do not allow God to search me every day and reveal my hidden motives, I will not become the man God intended. It's that simple, guys. My friend Coach Mack would say every day you need to be searched, fed, and led. I love that. You need to let the Lord search your heart, get the sin out of your life, let Him reveal to you the stuff that's in you that is not healthy. You need to be fed by the Word of God every single day, and you need to be led by the Holy Spirit. That's our goal, guys. Let God search your heart and your motives every single day. Life application, well, here's a couple of discussion questions. As I examine some of the recent decisions I've made, how would I rate on the scale of ministry versus manipulation? If ministering to the person is over here and manipulation is over here, where would you have been in any of those circumstances where you've been with others? And guys, listen, if you find yourself not being on the right side of that scale, don't feel bad about it. Just admit it, move on, let God search you, and in the future, either wear the band or have it somewhere etched in your mind and in your heart that you need to ask yourself that question often. What is my motive? And then number two, what practical steps can I take to improve in this area? And maybe that's one of them. You know, maybe it's wearing a band, or maybe it's having a sign. I used to have a sign on my desk years ago that just simply said, "What is your motive?" And I'm putting that sign back on my desk today. So those are your discussion questions. And guys, listen, I'm going to pray that God really blesses you from this information, because I think it's really, really important. And until next time, don't forget about it.